Good morning, D. Excited for the show today. Lot to unpack here. Obviously, Derek Cooper. That's been one that Miami has prioritized, and they need to land him here. We talked yesterday about how things have been trending, not great the last couple weeks here, missing on some big targets at important positions. But Cooper is one that to say that Miami has felt like he's been in the bag would be a huge stretch. That's not what it is by any stretch. But I think from Miami's perspective, they're kind of hoping that the Cooper announcement kind of stops the bleeding here, I think, and gets things back on track from a momentum perspective. You get a 5-star on board there, and you kind of remind people that this is still a top 10 class in the country, and you need to flip, as we've talked about, some guys in important positions here moving forward, and you don't want to rely on that, but you need to, like I said, stop the bleeding here in a sense from the public perspective, right? Perception. This is not, we understand they like a lot of guys in this class and where things are headed still, but I'm talking about from the outside looking in.
Yeah, man, it's vacation time for a lot of coaches. I feel bad for Coach Merritt, because his vacation is probably either short or very much distracted, because, yeah, he's got to get Derek Cooper. I think with Jackson Cantwell coming off the board, the other big, and there's big targets, but I'm talking about the elite class of targets. I think Derek Cooper is right up there with Cantwell. He is considered the best player locally by the staff, and I believe by the ratings as well. I would agree with that assessment from a prospect standpoint. And Miami is absolutely obsessed with getting this guy in the class, adding him to the room, using his speed, a 10.7 speed at 210 pounds behind this big offensive line. It's a match made in heaven from Miami's perspective. Cooper, you see the names on the top 5. I mean, FSU I wouldn't worry too much about, but you're looking at Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, 3 of the top programs, arguably the 3 top programs right now in the country. So big boy recruiting, but Miami, I think, needs this more than any of the other schools on that list. I understand Texas is making a big push. They're very focused on landing Derek Cooper. They're putting up a lot of money for Derek Cooper. Georgia's been recruiting him for a while, Ohio State. But ultimately, he's visited Miami so many times with him, his mom, and just talking to people around the program for the last 2-3 months. They've been saying, we're going to get Derek Cooper. We're going to get Derek Cooper. We're going to get Derek Cooper. So we'll see. I mean, that's why they play the games. That's why they have the recruiting battles. But with 7 days to go, or I guess now 9 days to go here before this commitment, I just cannot see Miami allowing this guy to leave. But it's not their choice, right? The kid has the choice. So he's ultimately going to make the pick. But my prediction here, and look, Lamar Brown came off the board. People are upset. We said, look like LSU, Texas A&M for a while, but we said we had Miami running third since I looked at the old banks that we did since May, right? So that wasn't necessarily a surprise. Calvin Russell, not necessarily a surprise there. We had him going to Syracuse. Just looking at some of these other. Go ahead.
I'll say the only thing that gives me some pause here in the Cooper situation, and I agree, I've heard similar feelings like I just referenced before, but the moving, and I've said this a couple times, the moving back of the date wasn't something that, and I don't know that any school was aware that it was going to happen, but I don't think Miami necessarily knew the reason why. So that's the only thing that kind of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think Texas is in the mix here. Texas is not really, I'm just pulling up Texas's class. Obviously, Texas is one of the top classes in the country, one of the top recruiting programs in the country, but they have struggled a little bit in terms of recruiting running backs this year. Just looking at their class, I don't believe they have a running back committed, and I don't think there's any big ones on the target list. Xavier Kroll committing to Alabama, right? So that was a big target that they had. Derek Cooper really is the guy for them at running back. So if you're a team like Texas, where do they rank right now? Number 14 class in the country is actually quite low for 17 commits. Now, that's surprising coming off a good season. I'm sure the Texas boards are kind of on fire right now. But, Texas is, I think, the one that needs the most of these guys. Florida State obviously needs them the most, but they're let's put them to the side because they're just not a serious program. I think Texas, of the 3 big schools, needs him the most, and that would be the one I'm watching the closest. but I think Miami needs him even more than Texas, and has a better football situation, or at least as good, because our offensive line recruiting is second to none. You just look at the ratings, look at the side, look at the bodies, look at the units on the field. Miami had the best offensive line of all these programs last year and projects to have the best one this year. So
well,
from a football
and
standpoint, it makes sense.
You've written in the bank for months that Miami was prioritizing this guy as like a number one type of player in the country, the same way that they did Jackson Cantwell, right? And I will decipher that for the people who don't understand that. That means that they are willing to go a far way NIL wise for him, right? So Texas is in the picture. They're going to have a very, very strong offer. We understand that, but I think Miami is here to play the game as well. So,
yeah, and look, but Texas, I think, is serious in that way too. So it's I don't think Texas is going to be like, hey, we're Texas.
No, we're not going to big boy Texas, but at the same time, if it comes down to a number, I think Miami's ready to do what they have to do.
Yeah. So we'll see how that one goes. I think that one's going to really July 20th, right? They open up camp in a week after that. Media day, all that stuff's happening before. So if Miami is able to get this done, I think it puts the class in a very nice place heading into the season. If Miami doesn't get it done, it's going to be a lot of negativity around recruiting heading into the season. So that July 20th date is big too.
And not to continue to harp on this, right? Because we don't necessarily get into a lot of the specifics of the numbers that are reported out there on NIL offers and stuff like that. But we keep talking about how there's always going to be a certain number to go around. You have not hit on a couple of these big number targets like a Lamar, but you have to have money allotted towards it, right? So you have to think there's some extra funds that have opened up as well.
Yeah. And look, Blake Stewart, I think, is one that could be a beneficiary of that, who commits this weekend. We'll talk about that probably on Saturday before he commits.
Can't miss that one.
So that's another one. But I think Cooper's the one that at July 20, Cooper and Blake Stewart. Let's put both of those guys up there. If you could finish with Cooper and Blake Stewart, I think this class is in tremendous shape. I mean, the people are going to complain about this and that, and they're not wrong. I mean, we need DTs. Miami Hurricanes win championships when they have first round DTs. First round DTs usually come with the 5-star, high 4-star packaging, especially lately. So I'm not going to diminish that at all. That's a real problem. But I mean, if you get Derek Cooper and Blake Stewart going into the season, you are recruiting at a high level, and you have a highly ranked team going into the season, and you have the number 3 portal class. So that would mean a lot of things have worked, I think, in the offseason heading into the year if you land those two. If you miss those two, the recruiting part of it's going to get a lot of attention, and that's part of the game. It wouldn't be out of line. But those are the two I'm watching, with Derek Cooper being that last one. And you know how it is. It's that last one that kind of dictates how people feel. I think that Cooper commitment on July 20th, and knowing one thing about Mario cares about momentum. Really does. I mean, Mario actually cares about momentum, more so than maybe other coaches. He thinks it matters. You saw Jackson Cantwell's commitment led to kind of like a little flood of commitments there in June. So Mario cares about this stuff, and I cannot see Mario going into this season losing Derek Cooper. But it takes two to tango, and Derek Cooper's going to have a say in that. It's his decision. So we'll see how it goes.
As Sport Mark asks about Tyreek Green, who's getting predictions to Georgia, there, D.
Which one? Derek Cooper? Yeah.
Tyreek Green. No, Tyreek Green.
Tyreek Green.
Yeah.
I think, Blake Stewart is probably the better chance than Green, is my guess. We're recruiting the right type of safeties, right? We're battling schools that produce first-round defensive backs in Georgia and Clemson, but finishing second to these schools, same thing as defensive tackle. You got to win some of those. So Miami's got to leave with one of those.
John Z says, haven't had momentum since before the Georgia Tech game. I mean, look, Miami has the number 1 player in the country committed in this recruiting class.
Number one portal player as well. So number 1 portal player and number 1 player in the country.
It's not perfect, but things are trending overall. The health of the program, I believe, in the right direction. And again, a lot of this class hangs on these next couple weeks because I've sat here and said it. It's been a rough go. If you don't land certain guys, there's going to be some issues, and we'll see what happens. But I think right now I'm still not hitting that panic button.
I love when y'all say, I mean, look, yeah, like, we do say that a lot, don't we? Probably me more than you. But anyways, we'll see on Derek Cooper. I think I'm glad he's committing now in the July 20th. That's what I'd say.